right? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya Ashtoto that the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya Ashtoto that the Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Oh, sorry, a little technical difficulties here. Let me get this thing plugged in. Okay. Okay, just make sure we're on the same page here. Text 29. What is it? 29. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this fourth day of March 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 1, observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukṣetra, text 29 at the bottom of page 49. Vepatush cha sharire me romaharshash chajayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvak chaiva paridahyate vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Would you like to try? Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Ladies. Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Good. Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Go ahead, Asha. Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Vepatushcha sharire me romaharshascha jayate gandivam shrunksate hastat tvakchaiva paridahyate. Anyone online? I guess not. Okay. I'll say the word for word as you read along. Vepatu, trembling of the body. Cha, also. Sharire, on the body. Me, my. Romaharshaha, standing of hair on the end. Cha, also. Jayate, is taking place. Gandivam, the bow of Arjuna. Shrunksate, is slipping. Hastat, from the hand. Tvak, skin. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Paridayate, is burning. Translation. So Arjuna is speaking to Krishna. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Purport. There are two kinds of trembling of the body, and two kinds of standings of the hair on end. Such phenomena occur either in great spiritual ecstasy or out of great fear under material conditions. There is no fear in transcendental realization. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow Gandiva was slipping from his hands. And because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation of the skin. All these are due to a material conception of life. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandjana shalakaya chakshurun midatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Arjuna is in a crisis now because he's a great warrior, but he's confronting this imminent battle, and he's asked Krishna, his charioteer, to bring the chariot between the two armies, and he sees on the other side his beloved teacher, Dronacharya, his beloved grandfather figure, Bhishma Dev, and all kinds of other friends and relatives and others who he can't conceive of fighting and killing or injuring. So this is describing the reaction, which the most startling of which is his dropping the bow. This is like a classic thing for a kshatriya to drop the bow. It's a critical defect, and it's very, very dangerous. But this is good. He's leading. This is unusual, of course, but it's all because of the fact that the battle is drawn between two parts of a dynasty. So they're all very closely related. And Arjuna, being at heart a soft-hearted Vaishnava, he's not, oh, okay, now I'll really get him, I'll cut their heads off. He's saying, oh, here's my beloved Bhishma Dev, who protected them when they were children. And he's the main fighter on the other side. Now, how did he get on the other side? Because he's financially dependent on Dronacharya for living. So he felt obliged to fight, even though. And later on, in the Bhagavatam, it describes that Duryodhana sees that he's not really fighting that hard, because he's also torn, conflicted. On the other side are his beloved Pandavas, who he helped to raise. They're the personification of devotion and duty and dharma. So it's not an ordinary battle, obviously. It's a huge battle, but Arjuna is now, he's been put into this situation because of his dilemma. He has to, in a few verses, he'll approach Krishna and say, I don't know what to do, and our relationship as friend to friend is not going to solve it, because talking friend to friend is not what I need now. So he will surrender to Krishna as the guru, and he'll take the position of a shishya. And Prabhupada points out here, or maybe in a talk I heard him give on this verse, that the word shishya has a root of shash. Each of the words in Sanskrit is a very wonderful language. It's based on these different roots. Like the word dharma is based on the root dri. And it's the same root of the word dhari, giridhari, holding up, sustaining. Dharma is that which sustains our existence, which is essential for our existence. So anyway, not to get too far afield, he's describing his symptoms now of his dilemma and his being torn, inside. He doesn't want to fight, but he knows it's his duty to fight and everything. So this is the whole situation that ultimately Krishna will speak the Bhagavad Gita to bring him out of that, so that he will again take up his bow and fight, the battle as part of his duty. So it's very dramatic, actually. All right, let's go on. Nacha shaknom yavastatum brahmati vachame manaha nimittani cha pashyami vipaditani keshava. I am now unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Purport. Due to his impatience, Arjuna was unable to stay on the battlefield, and he was forgetting himself on account of this weakness of his mind. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam Dutiya Banabeshitak Syat, Bhagavatam 11.237. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words nimittani vipaditani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. One's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. So Srila Prabhupada, I don't know if you noticed it, but Srila Prabhupada is referring in this purport to a verse spoken by Prahlad Maharaj to his father. There's a very dramatic scene. You know, every time he speaks to his father, he's trying to instruct him. And he's just this little boy, and his father's this enormous demon. But what he says here in this verse is as Nate bedu svarta katim hi vishnum durashya ye bahirata manara. And this is exactly what Prabhupada said, Nate bedu. Now, the te means they. Now, he's referring to those in the previous verse. And there he says, Matir na Krishna padatak sutova mito bipajyati griha vatanam. Adanta gobhi vishatamta misram punok punaschar vidacharvananam. That's a famous line, that last line. It means again and again chewing the chewed in material life. So he's there explaining to his father, he said, don't worry, father, you'll never be a devotee. You know. For those who are too much devoted to materialistic household life or materialistic life in general, they can't place their mind on Krishna, Matir na Krishna, either by their own efforts or by meeting with others or whatever you like that. And then there's this famous line at the end, Punak punaschar vidacharvananam, again and again chewing the chewed. Means that you enjoy some sense gratification here, you want to do it again, you know, then you move to another kind, and then you come back to the first kind, and life after life, you're trying to enjoy this material sense gratification, but you're never becoming happy, you're never becoming satisfied. So they, described in that verse, don't know that the real goal in life is Vishnu. Exactly what Prabhupada says in this purport. Nate vidu svarta katim. Hare Krishna, welcome. Take a seat. We have, you can take at the end. I think, is someone sitting there? Okay, yeah, you can sit there. You have two books. All right, anyway. We're on page 51. So, Svarta, sva-arta. Arta means something valuable. It often means money. Dharma, arta, kama, moksha. You know, you perform dharma so you can make some money, so you can enjoy kama, like that. But sva-arta means, it's come to mean the goal of the soul, the real need of the soul. So they who are too much immersed in material life, they don't understand that the real ultimate goal is Vishnu, is Krishna, is reawakening their eternal relationship with Krishna or Vishnu. That's the real goal. Gatim hi Vishnum. Durashya. And because of that, they're trying for hope against hope. There's durashya ye bahirarta manana. Bahirarta means external goals that are involved in the external senses and like that. They're always after that, planning for that, lamenting that they couldn't achieve that. Durashya ye bahirarta. Andayatandaya. And they're blind to their own self-interest, and they're led by other blind people. Let's face it, most of the people who were born in this age, their first teachers, of course, as in every birth, is your parents. So if your parents have no idea about what the ultimate goal of life, and then that will be passed on to you, and you be made, you know, conditioned. So andayatanda upadetepishitanda uradam nibadda, and everybody, the person is being taught, and they all remain bound up by the modes of nature. The ropes of the modes of nature. So Prabhupada is referring to that. Now Arjuna, of course, is a great devotee. He's an eternal friend of Krishna's. But here he says he's showing ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna's will. This is a very important point. I don't know if you picked up on that. Krishna is putting him into this ignorance so he can speak the Bhagavad Gita. It's all Krishna's plan, you know. So this is kind of uncharacteristic of Arjuna, and Krishna will say that in his role as the charioteer, not in his role as God. Before he actually starts, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna as a guru. They're speaking friend to friend. So Krishna will and this is the duty of the charioteer, to buck up the courage of the warrior if he's getting cold feet, you know. So he says to Arjuna, this doesn't become you. This is not Aryan, an Aryam. They'll say that in a few verses, you know. Anyway, so that's the drama is kind of setting up the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita. It's the introduction, and we'll finish this chapter. We'll take a few verses. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, and we'll go on. In the second chapter, text 11, Krishna starts speaking as Krishna. Okay. So he said, okay, so we did 30 and 31, right? Nacha shreyo na pashyami hatpa swajanamahavi nakangshe vijayam Krishna nacha rajyam sukhanicha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle. Nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Purport. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, I was reiterating the point from last purport. Conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies on the battlefront and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen, there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he is not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live in a secluded life in frustration. But as a Kshatriya, he requires a kingdom for his subsistence, because the Kshatriyas cannot engage themselves in any other occupation. But Arjuna has no kingdom. Arjuna's sole opportunity for gaining a kingdom lies in fighting with his cousins, not his brothers, just his cousins, and reclaiming the kingdom inherited from his father, which he does not like to do. Therefore, he considers himself fit to go into the forest to live a secluded life of frustration. And now he has a whole speech here. Kim no rajena govinda, kim bogar jivatena va, yesham arte kankshitang no, Rajam bhoga sukhanicha tahime vastita yudhe pranang tyaktva dhananicha acharya pitarak putras tataiva cha pitamaha matulas svashura pautra Shyala sambandhinas tatha etan nahantum ichchami gdatopi madhusudana api trailokya rajyasya heto kim numahi krite nahatyadartha rastrana Kapriti Sarjanardana. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudana, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the 3 worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Okay, we can get the heat now. Purport. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda, because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for the cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives. But Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life, however, is different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord. And if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This comes up in the 11th chapter. This fact is disclosed in following chapters. He's referring to the 11th chapter. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers. Not brothers. Anyway, miscreant cousins. But it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he, the Lord, excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. So, this is all building up to the Arjuna surrendering to Krishna. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava. He will say at the beginning of the next chapter. But not before he has built up this argument based on the Vedas. Now, if I kill all of these men here, what will happen to their wives? You know, they'll be unprotected, there'll be Varna Sankara, disturbed population. The offerings won't be given to the forefathers. I'll be responsible. I'll go to hell, and everyone else will also. He's got this whole argument. And ultimately, Krishna will say, Ashochan, Abashochan, Pragyabarang, Sabhasha say, you're speaking learned words, but you don't know what you're talking about. You know, you're lamenting for what's not worthy of grief, namely the physical body, like that. That's his first instruction. But here Arjuna is laying it all out, how he's paralyzed. And Prabhupada, he first focuses on this name, Govinda. The names are very important. You know, he calls him Madhusudana, Govinda. So Govinda, as you may know, it means he who delights the cows and the senses. And what senses are those? You know, those are our senses. But he gives us an opportunity to serve him, and in that way, our senses become pleased. And I always like to refer back to, well, it's the key verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu near the beginning. What is the prema bhakti, the pure prema that we're aspiring for? It says, here's what is qualified. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavratam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti uttama. So anya means other, abhilashita means desire, shunya means devoid of. So your activity should be devoid of any other desire than what? Than doing something favorable for Krishna's pleasure. And he gives an example of the other desires. Jnana karma yanavratam. Now, avratam is a significant word. It means covered. Our original consciousness is covered by this false ego, and which leads to all of these harmful desires, which are self-centered. I mean, it means that it's centered on pleasing our own senses. But what does that lead to? It leads to another birth. My favorite verse. How many times have I quoted this verse in this class? Yehi is 520, I think it is. Yehi sangsparjaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate. Adyantamanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. Which means an intelligent person does not take part in the pleasures that are due to the contact of the senses with the sense objects. Such sense pleasures, or Arjuna, such sense pleasures are the sources of all misery, and they have a beginning and they have a beginning and an end, and therefore the wise do not delight in them. Now, we're as part and parcel of Krishna, we desire gratification and pleasure also. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, you see, and the most thing that he enjoys relations with his devotees, you see, and that's where he gets his enjoyment. He enjoys giving pleasure to his devotees by allowing them to serve him in a certain rasa. You know, so it's all its pleasure. So there's this, the Vedanta Sutra. It's with all these wonderful aphorisms. And there's one that's describing the Supreme Personality of God as Anandamayo Bhyasat. Means by his pastimes we can tell that he's always full of Ananda. Anandamaya. He's made of Ananda, of bliss, you see. Now we are part and parcel of Krishna. Mame bangsu jiva loke jiva buddha sanatana. So therefore, we are our natural state, our swarup, if you will, is just like a hand serves a body, you see? And if the hand serves the body and works hard and gets money and buys groceries and cooks and offers to Krishna, then you can eat, then the hand also is pleased, right? The hand gets fed. So our real pleasure will be, and we gradually realize this as the bhaktas, it lies in giving Govinda pleasure, giving Krishna pleasure. So, but that's contrary to what's called the false ego, the conditioned life. So we need to somehow undergo a process that transforms our false ego into real ego. So we can actually live that life of giving pleasure to Krishna and experience it as such, and leave aside all of these desires for sense gratification that's keeping us bound to this world and life after life and leads to suffering. That's why it says all these desires, either immediately, if you just indulge all the time, right? And of course in this life you can indulge in so many artificial, drugs and all these different things. That's obviously going to lead to misery. But even if it's the most wholesome kind of sense gratification, it still leads to misery because it gives you another birth in a body. And what does the body mean? Oh, it comes, along with the threefold miseries. They're worth reviewing all the time. Adhyatmik, adhibhautik, and adhaivik. So we're all familiar with them. Probably may not be by those names if we haven't read the books. But adhyatmik, chronic headaches, old age. Oh, my knees. Oh, what to do? And there's always something, right? Something going on. You can't do what you used to be able to do. That in itself is a misery. So the mind and the body can give, that's adhyatmik. Adhidaivik, oh my God, the fires in LA, the hurricanes in Florida, North Carolina, the floods, the fires, all of these different things. Earthquakes, which are threatening here. I remember I was upstairs. I've been here quite a while, 35 years. And I remember, upstairs here we have now some ashram rooms, but there used to be the bookstore up there actually. And you could go up there and chant, doing the job at the time because nothing going on. So I was upstairs, and we had chandeliers, but not these. We had a different set of chandeliers. They weren't quite as opulent. By the way, we probably don't know, many of you don't know this, but Dharma Setu, he's been here longer than me. He was the temple president for a while, and he was the one who got this floor put in. When I came here, the floor was like this. It was and with some rough, stone, And you got that, and the new chandeliers and everything. So anyway, suddenly, boom, the earthquake comes. I'm upstairs, you know. Now, I ran down the stairs, and I like to point out and kind of confess, I should have run toward the deities and tried to protect them, but I didn't. I ran out the door. That's the state I was in. And I'm on the sidewalk, and I'm still feeling like I'm on a surfboard, you know. Luckily, it didn't go much past that. I saw the chandeliers moving like that, you know. But it can be very, very serious, you know. And so that's a danger. So that's Adidaivik, Adhyatmic, Adidaivik, and Adibautic. Whenever I figure the Adibautic, I always remember long, long ago when I was a kid, I was a total atheist. My father raised me as an Orthodox communist, yes. He used to read Das Kapital to me in the evening, in English. Anyway, so I forgot where I was going with that. Huh? Oh yes, Adibautic. So I was also into philosophy, and I would read existential literature, Jean-Paul Sartre and all this stuff, you know, Camus. So I remember, I forget who wrote it. I think it was Sartre who wrote this play called No Exit. No Exit. And in that play, there was this famous line, hell is other people. Can you imagine having it, you know? I mean, so that's Adibautic, you know. Oftentimes other people can give you so much misery, let's face it. People who you thought liked you, they don't like you anymore. You're being bullied online, you know, by who knows who. So that's Adibaut, and that could be mosquitoes or something, you know, or COVID-19 virus. That's Adibautic, right? Other living entities giving you, and they overlap. Once that other entity gets inside you, then it becomes Adhyatmic. Then it's your own body that's. You know. So this is what it means to have a material body. That sooner or later, one or more of these miseries is going to come, and then what happens is, even if you're not suffering the misery now, the worry or the anxiety that it might come or will come is in itself a misery. You see, this is what it means to be in the material world. So understanding that is part of knowledge. As Krishna says, 13th chapter, there's a whole list of things that are concomitant with bhakti, you know. Amanit vam adambit vam ahingsat chantarajam. That begins with giving up false pride, approaching a preceptor, you know, and surrendering. And adambit vam, I always love this. This damba is the first quality of the demons described in the 16th. Dambo, darpo, bimanascha. Abhimana means pride, as opposed to amana, amanitva. So damba means, the main meaning is the hypocrisy, is putting on a false front, especially to seem that one is religious. I always think of, go back to these things. Those who've been attending my classes, I've been giving these analogies, remember this. When I was a kid, you may remember, Kathy, forgive me. she's about as old as me. You remember Life magazine? There was Time magazine and Life. You remember? Okay. Anyway, I don't think there is Life magazine now, but it was a big magazine full of color pictures. So I'm living in New York, and we used to get it as a kid, maybe 13 years old. And there was once a feature article about the New York Mafia. Great, you know. So it was fascinating. They had little pictures. Maybe they were mugshots that they got, you know, of these mafia guys. And, you know, none of them looked happy. They all looked kind of scary, you know, like that. But then I would read up, I mean, maybe it was in the article, and many of them were Italian guys, you know, and they would go to church because that's what you do. You know, most of them are serious Catholics, you know. So they go to church, but they're also like, they're gangsters, you know. I mean, they arrange for some murder here and then go to church, you know. So the point is that it's a front. They want to seem religious. They want to seem like they're, you know, good people, you know. But really, they're gangsters. So that's Damba. That's the demons, you know. Kamsa was about to kill his cousin, actually, Devaki, sister cousin. when the omen came, this is the beginning of 10th canto, he's driving her after her wedding to Vasudeva, and everything's very nice. Then there's a big omen. The 8th child of this woman will kill you, He says, I better take care of her. So he's got his sword. And Vasudeva, he's got to figure out some way to talk him out of it. So one of the main things was it won't look good for you, Your reputation will be shot, Oh, okay, maybe I should. And after all, it's the 8th child. I promise I'll give all the children to you, so don't worry, like that. And Vasudeva was famous for his word. Of course, when it came to Krishna, he broke his word, right? He took Krishna. But anyway, so that's the thing with the demons. They don't want to look like demons. They want to look like regular people. And so that's dambha. That's hypocrisy. So anyway, the material life, completely devoted to somehow getting the pleasures of the senses or the mind, which is also the sense. And it always leads to frustration because you can't keep it going. It has a beginning and an end. And what happens, you planted a desire seed in your heart, you've enjoyed something, and you want to do it again, so that not being able to enjoy it when you wanted, that itself was the kind of misery. And then the thing is that, as we learn, the basic principle of transmigration, you're building your destiny with all of your experiences and thoughts and things that you do every moment, right? Because it's going into your mind. And so you have all these unfulfilled desires, and then you have your karma, and then you leave the body, and then you get a body to try to again fulfill these desires. And this has been going on. So this is what we don't want. That part of the knowledge is janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshana darshanam. To always be aware and to see the stress of birth, old age, disease, and death. So this is a very nice impetus to begin practicing real yoga, bhakti yoga. But at a certain point, the nectar of Krishna consciousness, if you do it right, becomes so sweet that you don't even care about liberation. What does Lord Chaitanya say? Famous verse. Nadanang, najanang, nasundaring, kapitang va, jagadish kamaye. Mama janmani janmani shwade papada bhaktada hoitaki tvahi. Very famous verse. So I put it into a little poem. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. I have a whole poetry file. I'll give you an email. I'll give it out free if you want it. The whole Shikshastra I do. But anyway, so you graduate from that. In other words, it's good impetus. Yeah, I want to end this miserable material life and go back to Godhead. So what do I do? Chant Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And you actually, in the progress of devotional life, you feel liberated, because you're liberated from the what's called the Hridaya Granthi, the knots in the heart, the ropes in the heart that you plant by engaging in sense gratification. So that's the sense. And there's a wonderful verse by Bilvamangal Thakur near the end of his Krishna Karanamrita, and he gives the realization of the advanced devotees about liberation. He says, Bhaktis, he's addressing Krishna personally. Bhaktis tvayistiditida bhagavan yadisyad daivena nakpalati divya kishora murti mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman dharma takamakate yaksamayak patiksha. You familiar with that verse? Okay. It's nice. I have a whole translation of the Krishna Karanamrita that I can send anyone who wants it. I can give it. So anyway, this is a beautiful verse. So he's addressing the Lord, and bhaktis tvahis chidatada, those who are fixed in your devotion. Is that Bhagavan or Bhagavan? If someone becomes fixed in your devotion, then they get the fruit of that devotion. Is it mukti? No, it's not mukti. Daivena nakpalati divya kishora murti. It's the vision, the revelation of your beautiful adolescent form. You see, that's the real result. And as far as mukti is concerned, she's over at the door waiting with Anjali. How can I serve you? In other words, the mukti comes as a byproduct. You don't have to struggle. Whereas the impersonalist, that's the whole thing. How can I control his mind and senses? And this way I can enter into Brahman, and I'll be free from birth, old age, disease, and death. But that's a kind of kama in and of itself. It's called Mukti Kama by Prahlad Maharaj. It's ultimately a personal desire, if that's all your yoga is. But for the bhakta, he's not worrying about that. Krishna will take care of that. We'll follow Prahlad's, example. He says, "My dear Lord Nrsingadev, as far as I'm concerned, I have no problems. Naibod Vijay. I'm not at all disturbed, because anywhere I am, I can chant your glories and dive into an ocean of nectar. And I'm already over on the other side of the Vaitārani vision. But Sholche, but I am lamenting. For what? These fools and rascals who are trying for the sense gratification I just described, Maya Sukhaya, Bodhamudvahat, and bearing the great burden of trying to enjoy that, you see, and just condemning themselves to more birth and death. So for them, I'm going to try to give them you. I don't see any other way. I can't just go off to Vrindavan and chant in a cave somewhere. I have to try to give them devotion to you, my Lord. So this is the perfect attitude of the devotee. The only anxiety he has really is for others who haven't met Krishna yet. And that impels them, like Srila Prabhupada took so many risks to come here to give us Krishna, out of his great mercy. And then we have to be, eternally grateful. Samsara Dava Analita Loka and Mangalarti. So anyway, Arjuna is now covered. Krishna covers him by this little, Maya, yoga Maya kind of. But he said, what happiness will it avail of us? He's thinking, well, what's material happiness? Because I'm going to have to kill my people who I love. So better I leave the battlefield. But I know that's not what you want, and it won't, so he's very confused. And in the next chapter, in text 7, he finally says, okay, it's not working, so I'll surrender to you. Now you please instruct me. And the difference is, when the guru instructs you, you can't, say, well, I don't know, let's discuss that. No, it doesn't work like that, And Krishna, but Krishna will instruct him in such a way that it's a lesson for all humanity, and it's perfect, All right, it's getting a little late. Maybe we can do one more verse, and then I'll give you a little more poetry. All right, 36. Papame vashrayedasman Hatbaitan atatayinah Tasmanarhavayam hantum Dartarashtran sabandhaban Swajanam hikatam hatva Sukhinasyamamarava. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? Purport. According to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. 1, a poison giver. 2, one who sets fire to the house. 3, one who attacks with deadly weapons. 4, one who plunders riches. 5, one who occupies another's land. And 6, one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at one. Now, the Kurus had tried to do that, all of those with the Pandavas. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting any ordinary man, but Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for Kshatriya. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Ram was so saintly that people even now are anxious to live in the kingdom of Lord Ram, Ram Rajya. But Lord Ram never showed any cowardice. Ravana was an aggressor against Ram because Ravana kidnapped Ram's wife Sita. But Lord Ram gave him sufficient lessons, unparalleled in the history of the world. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, own teacher, friends, sons, grandsons, etc. Because of them, Arjuna thought that he should not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive. Such injunctions for saintly persons are more important than any political emergency. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not, therefore, consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and the pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent, so why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Arjuna's addressing of Krishna as Madhava, or the husband of the goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Krishna that as the husband of the goddess of fortune, he should not induce Arjuna to take up a matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Krishna, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing of his devotees. Okay, so Arjuna is still in a dilemma, and we will see tomorrow how he comes out of it. Okay, so let's see. You have a question? Oh. A request, okay.
The poetry.
Yeah, I know. What's the poetry?
Where Krishna lives, felicity now.
Okay. You haven't heard it, but most of them have heard it already. Those who have heard it, if you want to do, you can do something else. You don't have to do it again. Okay. So this is a poem I wrote. It's not based. Many of the ones that I wrote are based on Sanskrit verses, like I did the whole Shikshastika and everything. But this one just came out. So where Krishna lives, felicity abounds. With pure simplicity and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when a living entity rejects his true identity and out of sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he touts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, he suffers in anxiety till contact with God's devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, the soul regains his sanity and casts away his vanity. Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing spontaneity his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Oh, it's early. We can do one more. All right. So this is a verse. This is one of 3 or 4 verses by Bilvamangal Thakur that's not in the Krishna Karnamrita, but they have this special lilt to them, and they're so this one is about Krishna throwing a tantrum. Krishna is speaking. Nitam navanavanitam ke nitapitam payakwame murari. Idisamadi latantam bhuma balam namama gopala. Who stole my butter? Who drank my milk? And where can my flute be found? I bow to the cowherd child who rolls on the ground as he does what? Rolls. I forget the last word. I bow to the cowherd child who shouts these words as he rolls on the ground. That's it. Okay, so here's another really favorite one of mine. This is one of the first ones I ever poeticized. This verse is in the Krishna Karnamrita, famous verse. Maduram maduram vaparasya vibhor. Maduram maduram vadanam maduram. Madugandhi madusmitame to the whole. Maduram 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 maduram. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form. Sweet is still his face so fair. But his honey-scented, gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Okay. Okay, we have time for one more. Short one. This is a little, real short one that kind of encapsulates the whole. Well, this is what Lord Chaitanya told Nityananda and Haridas to tell all of the residents of Navadvip when they went preaching. And first is the Bengali. Bolo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika. That's the whole thing. Which means this, and I led one little phrase. Just chant Shri Krishna's name and worship him with all your heart. Follow his instructions and to others them impart. That's the whole Hare Krishna movement in a nutshell. So why don't we do that? Let's do that. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.